What is up, Pacer Nation? Welcome in to another episode here of your go-to Pacers podcast, setting the pace, and the Indiana Pacers fall 117-101 in Game 3. Milwaukee does their best to make this a series, and we'll see what happens Sunday. But here to talk with me about this 16-point loss is Michael J. Facci. Facci, welcome back to the podcast. We sure have missed you. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Juggling two kids. Hey, wanted to go up from 2-0 to 3-0, but you know what? We're just not there yet. And I think that I knew game three was going to be a tough one. I really did. Backs against the wall for the Bucks. You knew they were going to give us their best shot. Unfortunately, they did.
Yeah, I mean, this was a really interesting game. At the end of the first quarter, it was tied 26-26, and you're feeling like, okay, the Pacers didn't play great that first quarter, and I think they shot 29% from the field, or yeah, from the field, and you're like, okay, they didn't play too bad. And then second quarter, Pacers kind of turned things on. I think they shot around like 50 something percent from the field in the second quarter. They go up by 10 at the half, start the half with a bucket and a steal and a bucket, go up 12, and then everything else just falls apart for the Pacers. The third quarter was absolutely abysmal, Facci. I don't know if you have the third quarter stats or
I,
not, but it
I do.
was it was pretty rough here. 39-18 in favor of the Milwaukee Bucks.
39-18. I'll make it worse. Gary Trent Jr. scored 18 in the third. The
Yeah.
Pacers scored 18. So I mean that's how bad things were. It's like I don't know what happened in each locker room during halftime, but man, I would have liked to have been a fly on the wall for whatever's going on in Milwaukee's locker room because they came out fired up knowing that their season was essentially on the line. You fall down 3-0, that is a death sentence in sports. And they came out and 39 points. Obviously, that is nothing anywhere even close to what the Bucks had put up in any quarter of the playoffs. And Gary Trent Jr. could not miss. Also, just the Bucks from 3-point land in the first half. I thought this was really a key difference in this game. First half, they were 4 of 23 from three. In the second half, they went 11 of 18 from
Hmm.
three. Gary Trent Jr. hitting 7 threes himself in the second half. I mean, Giannis and Gary Trent Jr., those were the two that really shouldered the load for Milwaukee.
I mean, yeah, let's just stay on that real quick because I told you before we came on here, I actually got up. We're recording this at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday. I actually got up around like 6:45 and rewatched the entire
Putting
game.
in
I
the
put
work.
myself through all that misery, but I wanted to see exactly what kind of looks Gary Trent Jr. was getting and how that he was getting so open. Because like when you're just watching it live, you're like, how does he keep getting so open? So listen to this. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine of his wide open threes came off the Pacers trying to double team. Okay. Now I will say this: not all of them came from Giannis just passing it out to Gary Trent Jr. There was a couple in there where he did get a hockey assist, where he would like swing it to AJ Green, swing it to Bobby Portis. Portis would then hit it to Gary Trent Jr. But too many times the Pacers were too worried about it. Like even at the end of the game, when the game was like, there's no way they were coming back. Tyrese is guarding Gary Trent Jr. in the left corner. Okay, Giannis has the ball above the break, so you're talking about right above the center court part at the 3 point line. Everybody on the Pacers is like 2 feet away from their man, sunk in, trying to make sure Giannis doesn't drive. And Giannis doesn't even look to drive. He takes one dribble and just throws a hard pass to Trent Jr. Tyrese is 2 or 3 steps away, no contest, wide open three. And like this is after he's already hit all these shots and the game was already over. So little things like that. It's like when you see a guy that is doing that well offensively, I understand you're worried about Giannis getting his and doing his thing with double teams and helping out with Pascal and Neesmith. But I think at some point Indiana has to be careful here because the Bucks made a very good adjustment in
They
this
did.
game by basically saying Torian Prince, you're not going to play, and they played a lot of smaller guard lineups here to try to match up with Indiana's speed. And they passed the ball well and got a lot of open looks. And you cannot afford to let guys get hot like that because if Gary Trent Jr. has a normal game, the Pacers are right in this one.
Absolutely. And I don't want to discredit Gary Trent Jr. as a player. Love the guy. Like, no, I don't love him. He's a good player. I respect his game.
Yeah.
But like this is a guy that found himself on a minimal contract. Like he's a good shooter, always has been. But this was the game of a lifetime for him. And I don't think that Gary Trent Jr. is going to go off for 37 again in any other game. I don't even know if we're going to see, a 25-point game out of him. But at the same point now, you have to respect him. He has to be someone that Indiana is really focused in on. In game one, he was like their second best option, him and AJ Green. So I think it was a down game too, but you do have to tip your hat, unfortunately, to Doc Rivers making that change. It did swing this game, and it gave the Bucks a lot of life in this series. So I think for game one and two, it was very much like let Giannis beat you, stop everybody else type of thing. And Giannis still got his 37. He had a great performance in this, but they did have help. Gary Trent Jr. really did rise to the occasion. And I felt like the Pacers just unfortunately didn't. And you could see we've gone this far, but like, what about the importance of playing at home?
Yeah.
This Bucks team felt the difference of playing at home. They thrived off of that crowd. Like they really, we've talked about it. Shooters feel more comfortable at home. Gary Trent Jr. having this type of performance at home, not to say that doesn't surprise me, but I don't think he would have had that type of performance in Indiana on the road. And that's just why like Indiana was so dominant at home. And they're a different road team. They are. They're not a bad road team, but they're not dominant on the road. And this game three performance, it definitely favored the home team.
No, I mean I agree. I mean we talked about it. Role players play better at
Yes.
home. They just do. It's just normal. And like you said, they feel more comfortable sleeping in their own bed. They
Mm-hmm.
just their
The
their
right
routine
ball.
is the same, right? Their routine is more in sync than when it is on the road and you're traveling and doing different things. I mean, you feel that way when you're at home. Like you just
I do.
feel more at ease. But I just think the Bucks they were desperate. They had to. You talked about it. They came out of that second quarter. They came out in the first half or second half, excuse me, just ready to go. And they did have like a bad play to start the game out with, but they erased that 12-point lead, got the lead. I thought maybe Carlisle should have called a timeout sooner than letting them tie it up before he called one. But the Bucks crowd, like I've been in that arena before, they are loud. Even the regular season, they are a great home team too. We just when I talked with Rohan Caddy for the preview, like he just said like the Bucks are very good at home. So I mean the Pacers, they got the Bucks best punch in the
Mhm.
third quarter and they didn't respond. They were really sluggish a lot of times and trying to figure things out. But I'll just say this for like one minor adjustment I would do if I'm Indiana. If Tyrese Halliburton is going to be guarding Gary Trent Jr. to start the game, number one, you can't leave him. You have to fight through screens, use your size to make him work. Do not ever leave to double Giannis. I think whoever is guarding Kyle Kuzma is someone that you risk leaving him open. I would rather Kuzma get hot than Gary Trent
Oh
Jr.
yeah,
because Kuzma
definitely.
is so hot and cold. Whoever is guarding Kuzma in that starting five, I would use him to kind of help, shade Giannis with Pascal. And even at times, if I'm Miles Turner, I might even leave Brook Lopez open and dare him to shoot and help
Might
out
have
that
to.
way. Just because I feel like those are better options than leaving Dame and leaving Gary Trent Jr. open, or if AJ Green's out there, leaving him open. Even if you're going to leave Kevin Porter Jr. open at times, I'll live with that just because you're
Agreed.
talking about players that have been very, very, very streaky
Mhm.
and they haven't really proven that they can be consistent in the playoffs through the first three games. So I think you just have to pick your poison here with who you want to call to help double off because so many times I see the Pacers like have a foot inside the paint or trying to just like make sure Giannis always is seeing double or triple, and then all of a sudden, Fletch, you got guys scrambling everywhere, and this is leading to wide open threes for a guy like Gary Trent Jr. So I'm hoping the Pacers can just make that subtle adjustment and figure it out.
The crazy thing is, if you can't stick Tyrese Halliburton on Gary Trent Jr., where can you even stick him? Like that's the thing that's worrisome is like, come on, Tyrese, like you gotta really like rise to the occasion on this matchup and take this personally. And I always do think that whenever Tyrese has been faced with adversity, he's always responded. Like he was not good on defense. He was not good on offense.
Yeah,
Yesterday, this was a very forgettable performance. I tweeted out. I know you said, "Hey, look, he's getting wide open threes. He just wasn't making them." But I just don't like the fact that 9 of his 11 shots came from three. I
yeah,
don't like that. It means he was one of two inside the 3-point line. One of them was a dunk. That was a great play right before halftime. And I just feel like it's like, come on, Tyrese, like, you got to be better. We need that type of aggression that we saw in game two, where Tyrese really came out. He was like 6 of 10 at halftime. I feel like in this game he just never got into a rhythm. And this was just that type of performance that, for the most part, a lot of Pacers didn't really step up. I saw you had tweeted out, and it's right. I think this was the worst playoff game that Miles Turner's ever played. Flat out, 1 of 9 from the field, one block, four turnovers,
yeah.
4 turnovers. That man scored 4 of his 6 points from the free throw line. This is Turner had a really he's had some really good games in the playoffs, especially against the Bucks. This was not one of them. I do think that he will play much better next game. I do think that Tyrese Halliburton will play much better. But like this was just one of those where like when Aaron Nesmith leads you in points at halftime, like you're like, okay, when are the other guys gonna get it going? And Siakam did get it going. He had a good game, but like you can't have like Halliburton, not rise to the occasion. Turner had a really rough game, and then Nemhard, after having two really good games, just didn't ever get it going offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bucks defense was much better. They were definitely making Indiana feel a
Was
little bit more pressure and things like that. For Tyrese, just a couple of things on him real quick. I think defensively, like I think if they just said Gary Trent Jr. straight up, he could do it. But they were
Yeah,
asking him to like
they
help
could.
off, and they were like schematically trying to make sure that they didn't let Giannis get going. Which I get it. Like Giannis is a force. You're gonna always have to throw different looks at him just to make it harder. But like, I just think if you're Indiana and you see a guy like I think Shepard was in the game at points on Gary Trent Jr. and things like that because Nemhard got in some early foul trouble when you just see a guy like Gary Trent Jr. going off like that, you just can't leave him. And that's more on the scheme than it is the actual player in terms of like, hey, the game plan is to do this. We got to adjust our game plan. And I don't think the Pacers did a very good job at making sure they rotated correctly. So I think that's more of a team defensive thing than just like a, hey, Tyrese, you've got to be better at this point on ball defense. But your point about Tyrese getting into the paint and scoring a little bit more, we've talked about that at times. Like even if he doesn't go all the way to the basket, like I think he maybe had like one pull up jumper on like a Torian Prince in the second quarter, something like that. Maybe his
Mhm.
first quarter. It wasn't a great look. I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't like a great look. I think that a lot of times he will drive into the paint and he gets pretty close to where he could just shoot it. But
Yeah,
sometimes he's more afraid of the bigger defenders being there, like a Lopez closing or a Giannis closing, and like tries to kick it out. I think this is where he could utilize his floater a little bit more. We've
yeah,
seen him have soft touch on that at times, but he doesn't ever go to it. It's almost like if he doesn't get all the way to the cup, he's not going to shoot it.
agreed.
And I think that if he could maybe hit that 7 to 8 foot floater, that would be really beneficial for his game just to get him going. Because if you're always shooting threes and you're not seeing the ball go in, you're going to start pressing a little bit. And he's not shot the ball at all this entire playoffs. And
No,
Facci,
37% from the field through 3 games,
yeah,
and
he's
and just under 27% from three in this series. This is a brutal shooting splits.
yeah, for sure. And you brought up Turner. I want to come back to Turner in a second, but I just want to bring this up as a team. I went through and counted how many 3 pointers did they miss last night? Can you pull that up for me?
Yeah. So this was just not Indiana's night from 3-point land. So they went 13 of 41 in game three. That's
Okay.
good for just under 32%.
All right, so 14 minus or 41 minus 13 is
13.
what? 28?
Yeah. Uh,
I think that's right. I'm doing basic math here in
18.
the morning. It is
I'm not
28. It's 28
bad.
three
Okay.
pointers that they missed. Okay? Listen to this. I went through and counted 22 of those threes would be what I would call wide open. Now, I did write this down for four of them, or excuse me, five of them. No, 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 four of them. There were light contest, like a little bit
Yeah.
of somebody there, but for the most part, in the flow, good stuff. I
They
would
got
say
looks.
I would say 22 of those were good looks. So
Hmm.
the Pacers, if they just hit their shots that are wide open, I'm not saying they're going to hit all 22, but even if you hit just like 10 of them,
Yeah.
10 of the 22 that you missed that were wide open, there's 30 points. I know it sounds basic, but it's just like they couldn't hit the broadside of a barn
They couldn't.
yesterday, and they just got into no
They
flow. And I
had missed
think
too.
they were
Like
rushing shots, bro. They were rushing
there was
wide
a lot
open
of like
looks.
hitting backboard. Like I saw like there was like some air balls, air
Tyrese had
balls
some.
and hitting backboard. Like these were not like we talked about this early on. Tyrese is missing shots, but but they're like in and out. Like rimming out. Like it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that in game three. These were misses. Like
Yeah.
Aaron Nesmith was hot from three. He had it going on, but like I just felt like Nesmith was 4 of 8 and Siakam was 3 of 4. If you remove that, I mean it was definitely pretty rough. Like we talked about, Turner was 0 of 6 from three. That's not going to happen again. He'll hit some shots, and I think it's important to get Turner going early on. But I know you said you wanted to come back to Miles, and this was just not his type of performance. Only plays 24 minutes, so he better be rested. He better be ready to rock. I feel like this was just one where he'll be better. We knew through games 1 and 2. Nemhard was playing like above his norm. So it's not like we could just expect him to be like a 15 point per game guy, in every single game. He's going to have some quieter scoring performances, but you need a guy like Turner to be, a number 2 or 3, I would say, in any given night. And I feel like in game three, he was just kind of nowhere to be found.
Yeah, Turner was bad. And I hate to say it, but I would say for this game overall, Thomas Bryant had a better game at the
Yes.
five than we saw from Miles Turner. And Turner had some really stupid turnovers. Like some ones that I was just baffled by, like the one where Gary Trent Jr. just slaps the ball away from at the top of the
That was
key.
tough. Yeah.
It's just like he had no confidence whatsoever with what he was doing offensively, and I think that with Milwaukee going a little bit smaller, I talked about this on the pod. I with Rohan, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they maybe try to throw Kuzma on him at different times just to give him different looks. Because when we've seen Biggs guard Giannis, or excuse me, Biggs guard Turner, he can take advantage of it. But when you put a smaller guy on him, he just doesn't seem comfortable. I
Hmm.
don't like his dribble at all. Like he makes me very nervous when he puts a ball on the floor. He's never going to go in the post and really do anything. The only made basket he had was a layup in the second quarter over somebody
Yeah.
smaller.
Yep.
Like he didn't do anything offensively, and it just you can't like when he's supposed to be your third best player on the team, and he does that offensively, you're never going to win that game. I mean, I'm sorry, like you might pull it out if somebody gets hot like Mathurin or Neesmith or something like that, but like rarely we have seen the Pacers have success winning when Turner is that ineffective, and so. Miles just has to be so much better. He can't be any worse than he was in this game, honestly. And I don't know. Maybe the moment was just a little too big for him. I don't want to say that because he had a really good game seven against the Knicks in the Garden
Mhm.
last year, but the whole team did. So we know that the Bucks are going to be scheming for what he did against them in the first two games, especially with Brook Lopez. They still started Brook Lopez. I just
Playing less and less.
He is playing less and less, and I mean Chris and Quinn were even kind of like dogging him a little bit on the broadcast, which I thought was kind of funny because you don't usually hear them say anything negative.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean it's tough. It is really tough because you can't expect Miles to play great all the time because he's not a great player. Miles Turner is a role player in my opinion, and so he's a higher tier role player, but role
Definitely.
players have ups and downs, and so
Mhm.
this is one of those down games. I'm expecting him to bounce back,
No
and I
bounce.
think he'll figure it out.
He will. But also, we touched on, you mentioned Mathurin real quick. This is the third game in a row. Obviously, there's only been three, where Mathurin's had a good second quarter and barely played in the second half. So once again, I even tweeted this out. He had 9 points at halftime. It was like 9 points in like 9 minutes. And I said, all right, Mathurin has 9 points. Very curious to see what's the trend in the second half. Only plays 4 minutes in the second half. This is now 3 games in a row where the bulk of his scoring has come in that first half. And then the second half, he's barely even played. So I'd like to touch on that. And then also Jarris Walker out of the rotation, Ben Shepherd in. I feel like this wasn't maybe the best Carlisle, type of coaching game or like rotation wise, but it was just definitely interesting to see they went away from Matherin and they went away from Jarris essentially all together outside of some garbage time minutes.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Mathurin. I just hadn't got to yet because I was like rewatching the game, and in the first quarter, he pretty much closed the first quarter with 7 points for the
Yeah.
Pacers. Like he had a really nice drive where it looks like he almost loses the ball, but he lays it in. Then he had another and one where I think Dame fouled him or something like that. Like he was cooking. And then
Hmm.
he had a drive in the second quarter, like on the baseline where he laid it in. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this is a guy that needs to be getting the ball in his hands more,
Yes.
especially with this second unit at times, because you're looking at like a group of like Matherin, McConnell, Shepard, or Walker. Usually, one of those three Thomas Bryant and Pascal. It's like who is scoring here? Like,
Uh,
and TJ McConnell was awful in this game too.
he was bad.
And
He,
and
he
like
was
he,
couldn't
he
buy a
can't
bucket.
shoot the ball. So if he doesn't have the ball in his hands, like he's just you can't play him that much in my personal opinion. But yeah, I think Matherin like he was really locked in that first half, and then all of a sudden the second half, like one of the first or second plays when he was out there, Giannis hit him with that elbow in the stomach, and he was like hovered on the floor, like wanted them to review it, and the refs refused to review it because he thought it was a dirty play. And so, Giannis goes to the free throw line, hits his first free throw, and then Ben walks up to him and says something, gets in his face, and Giannis just kind of looks at him. The referees give Ben a tech, and then after that, I felt like Ben just
That's
kind of
it.
lost it. And
Yeah,
so, like, it wasn't like he was like out of control or anything like that. They just like it seemed like mentally he was so like caught up into like what just happened with that, and they didn't really get him involved. And I think that's a poor part on the Pacers to not get him more looks
I think
because
so.
offensively, if they're going to play smaller with AJ Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., Dame, like if they're not going to put like a Prince or somebody out there on him, I feel confident with his abilities to get to the basket, even to put pressure on the Bucks defense at times because I understand like he's not going to always be like somebody you want the ball in his hands and just be like go get a bucket right now because he can get a little tunnel vision, he's not going to make the right pass. But I think for the majority of what he's doing, Facci, you want to see you want to see him just get more looks and more opportunities because I just don't feel like he's getting enough offensive firepower. Like eight field goal attempts from Matherin. That's the best out of the non-starters, but they pretty much all came in the first half. I think you got to find ways to get him going in the second half.
You absolutely have, and it's like in terms of finding ways to get him going in the second half, he's barely even playing in the second half. And I just looked at this in his limited minutes, he leads the Pacers in free throws attempted in this series. I mean, he's got 14 free throw attempts, and he's playing, like 14 minutes a night, basically. It's not enough time. I feel like this guy, like we've seen Matherin before, like eventually when he gets into a rhythm, sometimes he could take over a whole entire quarter. We've seen that happen where all of a sudden, oh wow, Matherin dropped, 12 in the quarter or whatever it is, or he got to the free throw line 8 times or anything of that sort. But I feel like that's something where he needs to play more in the second half. It's been very noticeable the drop off in the second half, and it's been frustrating to watch. I think right off the bench right now, like they're still trying to figure this out. We haven't seen like an Obi Toppin really get it going. He had 10 points in this game, sure, but like I feel like some of them were kind of late in the game, like the fourth quarter, things like that. Obviously Ben Shepherd back into the rotation. I think they wanted his defense. You know, didn't look like bad by any means at all, but he wasn't looking great. 1 of 4 from three. It was good to see him get that first three to go down. I think he missed each three after that. But, clearly it looks like Shepard's back into the rotation. So obviously that means Walker's probably out. I didn't know if Jarris Walker did enough to lose his spot in the rotation, but it's something to also keep an eye on. And I feel like, when the Pacers bench has kind of been, not maybe not this year, but has been like a bright spot for them, it was not anything, anything to make a difference in this type of game against Milwaukee, where we talked about for Milwaukee, Gary Trent Jr., a role player, stepped up and swung the game. Matherin can swing a
Yes.
game, potentially even a series. If he gets it going, I wouldn't be surprised if Matherin has a game where he has a 18 off the bench, and all of a sudden that's a big difference. But you gotta get him into a rhythm. And it feels like right now, TJ McConnell or Obi Toppin aren't having that type of potential to swing a game. So I would really like the Pacers to give Matherin a bigger chance because I do think he can make a bigger difference.
0 minutes in the fourth quarter for Ben Matherin in Game Three. Played 4 minutes in the third. I don't
I'm
understand
not
that decision. I understand if you look at the box plus minus, the box score plus minus. We look at that, and sometimes it really does tell a story. But like McConnell and Shepard were plus threes. I don't really feel like they were positive
exactly.
in
No,
the game overall. Like, I mean, here's the thing. I didn't think Shepard particularly played bad defensively. I thought
exactly.
he was fine. I thought he
Yeah,
was
he was
fine
fine. He was
defensively.
fine.
Like probably a little bit better than fine defensively. Offensively, like 1 of 4 from three. Like you mentioned it. It just he's still like they're good looks. I
Yeah,
literally wrote his all his threes that he missed were wide open.
I agree. And that's the
Okay,
frustrating part, though, because you're like, all right, come on, Shep. Oh, come on, Shep. Like
because
it
he hit his
becomes like
first one.
that. I know, and that's what made me feel. I tweeted it out. I was like, "That's a feel good story. Shepard's back, and he hit a three. Like, welcome back." And then nothing happened after that. And it's like,
Yeah,
this ain't gonna be one of those like, well, Foch, you cursed him. It's like, no, 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 I didn't. This man's just missing
this man's been
three.
cursed.
Yeah, and it's just been a long time now because we know what Shepard's capable of from three, and when you're getting these type of looks, and here's what I'll say: it was the team missing a lot of open looks, like you talked about. So we can't just pin it on him. It was one of those nights where it's like an all or nothing. Like they just couldn't hit threes. So I think they will do better with that, but. Look, Milwaukee had their struggles from 3-point land where they were getting good looks and missing in previous games. So, fortunately, this was the Pacers' time. I just hope that Milwaukee doesn't feed off of this type of momentum, because they are obviously game 4 is at home. Dame should play better at some point in this series. He has not been good, especially if you remove his first half of game 2. The last 6 quarters that we've seen has been really, really rough. And that's something I've said is I'm confident in the Nemhard matchup on Dame, but I think that like guys like Brook Lopez have not been a threat in this series. Obviously, we talked about Torian Prince and Kyle Kuzma aren't giving you anything, but like you just can't have that second option be someone who's, you can't have Gary Trent out there looking like Chris Middleton or anything of that sort. Like you have to be able to hold those guys to, 10 points or less and you'll be just fine. But 101 points in the playoffs, that's not Pacer basketball. That is really not. You got to be scoring, say, right around that 120 mark. I think if you want to be thriving. And the thing that's kind of Pacer-esque is look from an assist standpoint. They had 32 assists on 39 made field goals.
Yeah,
Typically, that's great, but the difference is something that I pointed out in previous games. Indiana had been having single digit turnovers. They had 14 turnovers in this game. I believe nine of them came in the second half, which was just more than what we had all of last game. That can't happen. The Pacers played sloppy basketball, and Milwaukee made them pay. I believe that Milwaukee ended up scoring. I want to say it was
22 points.
22 points off of those turnovers. 17 points came in the second half off of those turnovers. That was also a big difference because they were getting in rhythm while the Pacers were not.
Yeah, I mean the Pacers were sloppy with the basketball. They had 8 total turnovers, Facci, in the first 2 games, so they pretty much doubled that with 14 in this game here. So pretty bad. And you mentioned the 3-point shooting from Milwaukee. Listen to this: if you take Gary Trent Jr.'s hot night of 9 of 12 shooting, the team went 6 of 29. This
Disgusting.
team, they didn't shoot the ball
Oof.
well, and AJ Green I think hit 4 of those, or
Yeah,
3 of
yeah,
them at least. I mean, he
like
had
two
some ones that were late in the
players.
game there too. So
Yeah,
it's like everybody else was not hitting, and that was why I wanted to like reiterate my point from earlier with Tyrese. Like whoever's guarding Gary Trent Jr., let everybody else kind of beat you. I saw times they were double teaming Bobby Portis, double teaming Brooke Lopez. Why are we double teaming Brooke Lopez in the
that's
post?
crazy.
If
A
Miles Turner can't
40-year-old
handle
Brooke
Brooke Lopez,
Lopez in 2025, we can't be double teaming him.
no, I mean, and if he scores a 2 on you, congratulations. Get down and run because you can outrun him once he's already down at the basket. So it's like, I don't know. But I want to bring up the Jarris Walker Ben Shepherd thing just because I know it's going to be a talking point that needs to be
It will.
discussed. And I had this conversation with my friends last night watching the game live. They're like, "Why is Jarris not playing?" And they were pretty upset about it. Like they're just like, "I don't understand what he did to not play well." And I said, "Well, I said if you really look at what he did in game 2, he was really not impactful outside of that one corner three that he made. He didn't have a great game." And I said, "I think also because the Bucks have gone smaller, they're trying to play Shepard out there to guard more guard like players because if you have Jarris out there trying to chase around Dame or Gary Trent Jr. or those type of players, like it's going to be harder for him. Like he could probably guard AJ Green, but like I think if Torian Prince plays more, you probably see Jarris Walker against Torian Prince. But Torian Prince played 3 minutes. He played three
Yeah.
minutes in like I think it was end of the first and didn't play the rest of the game. So they definitely found something there with like going a lot smaller with like 3 ball handlers and then 2 bigs and trying to match up with Indiana's smaller size and quickness. So that's part of the reason why I don't think he played as much. But even there at the end of the beginning of the fourth quarter, we saw a lineup of Pascal, Thomas Bryant, T.J. McConnell, Shepard, and Nimhard. I mean, what kind of spacing is that?
Can't
That's
happen in the
awful. I
playoffs.
mean, Nimhard's not shot the ball well from three really this whole season. Shepard hasn't shot the ball well. I mean, the only person that's really spreading the floor for you is Pascal Siakam. I mean, Thomas Bryant's not a 3-point threat in this series. So maybe with that lineup, you pull TJ, you let Nimhard kind of run the show, and then put Jarris out there with Jarris and Shep and Nimhard to try to get you a little bit more floor spacing there with Jarris, give you a little bit more size potentially too. I just with TJ McConnell, like I get it, like he'll probably come out in game 4 and have a decent game, but it's just like too often I've seen TJ McConnell just be limited with what he can do,
Yeah.
especially if guys aren't hitting around him. Like he has to have the ball in his hands, and I feel like sometimes it takes away from what Matherin can do too.
I agree with that. There was a time where McConnell was in the corner and he had a look at three and I was begging him not to put it up. Like just I was like, please don't. Like we're not hitting anything. Like you're not gonna be the guy that just strokes this corner three right now. And like that's a problem because it's just like if we were missing open looks, like you don't even want McConnell taking a wide open look at that point. So yeah, he does need to bounce back. I think that he still has the capability to have like a really good game where all of a sudden Indiana, if he could have like 15 points and I don't know, 7 assists off the bench, that could be enough to really
That'd be a
spark
great
the game.
McConnell game.
Yeah, it would. It would be great. But it's just like, man, and it could happen. Like last year against the Bucks. I mean, McConnell and Obi, they had games that really were a major difference maker. And McConnell was awesome against the Knicks. It's due. He needs to have one of those games. Obi is due for one of those. It doesn't need to be a 20-point game, but just a game where he gets hot from three, maybe goes 3 or 4 or 3 or 5 from three or something of that sort. So I think it's coming, but I think here's the thing. We're not going to overreact. Game three, when you are up 2-0, is typically the hardest game to win. That is like what we see. Like the Thunder were abusing the Grizzlies through 2 games. Then Grizzlies, I mean, I know they lost, but a part of that's because Ja got hurt. They responded for the most part of that game. Like you see teams come out much better when they're at home and they're trailing, and that's what it was. I am a little bit worried that the Bucks could tie this up. I am because, it looks like they have made changes. Like Torian Prince gave them nothing through those first two games. If he's not playing, and Brook Lopez is playing less, and Gary Trent Jr. is playing more, and whatever it may be, Dame is still due. He's due to play much better. He was atrocious in game three. I am a little bit worried that this could be, get tied up 2-2. I do have confidence that Indiana has been dominant at home, and it's still going to be hard for the Bucks to win, at home because even if it gets tied up 2-0, three of those remaining games are in Indiana. So, that makes me feel pretty decent, but you don't want to rely on home court. If you can win game four in Milwaukee, I feel very confident that we'll be able to close this one out.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this too, I think, with you and Schultz. Like, if they can just win one of these two road
Just gotta
games,
win
like,
one. Gotta win one.
yeah, I mean, you just feel confident. And like when they were up by 10 points at the end of the half, like I felt like, are they gonna pull this off?
So did I. I really did. I didn't want to get cocky, but I started to just be like, okay, don't start saying like, wow, I can't believe we're gonna go up 3-0. But like I did not expect the second half that we saw. I thought if
Yeah.
anything, hey, you know what? The Bucks aren't dead. This is gonna be a close one. I don't really remember this game being anything closer than trailing by like 10, basically, once the Bucks really like went up. It felt like the Pacers were never a threat at all in the fourth quarter, and especially, late in the third. It was just all Milwaukee.
Yeah. I mean, really early in the fourth, Pascal hit some shots to kind of like get his total up from around like 20 to like 28, total points. Like he had some big threes there, but then they were hitting some stuff. And it was just like, you were never really felt like the Pacers got close enough there once the Bucks kind of took control in the third quarter. But you have what we would call a turd quarter from back in the day. Remember those when the Pacers would
Oh,
always
I
come
haven't
out
heard
after the
that
half?
term in a while. That was absolutely a turd quarter.
Yes, a flashback to that, a little bit of a flashback Friday for the Pacers in Milwaukee on Friday night. But no, I mean honestly, like you said, like you kind of expect the Bucks to come out with their best punch, and you handled that in the first half, but in the second half you didn't. And I think honestly, like I was telling my friends this last night too, I was like, look, if you're the Pacers, like mentally, they're still a young team that doesn't have that killer instinct just yet, where they're just like, all right, we got them where we want them. Let's step on their throats. They're kind of like, we got them where they want them. We got them where we want them. That's great. Like they're happy about where they're at. And I think they probably felt pretty good. Like, wow, we played a really bad first quarter. We're still up by 10, held them to 44 points. Like I thought the Pacers defense at times was pretty good in this game. And I feel like Aaron Neesmith had the first half of his life. Like, I mean,
Did.
that was MVP first half for
Yeah.
Aaron Neesmith stuff right there. Siakam and Mathurin were kind of like your big three right there. And even Halliburton had 8 and 8 at the end of the half with 5 rebounds. Like Halliburton had a pretty good stat line for himself despite his poor shooting night in the first half. And then everything just went to crap in that second half. So, for the most part, I would say the Pacers have dominated 10 of
Yeah.
the 12 quarters
Mhm.
against the
Yep.
Bucks,
That's fair.
right? So you should still have some confidence, but you did give Milwaukee some confidence too. You breathed some life back into this Bucks
Absolutely.
team when you had a chance to potentially make them lifeless. So that to
They're
me
no
would be
longer
my
on life
only
support.
concern, Vaj.
Yeah, they ain't on life support anymore. They're moving around. They're
They
getting
got
their,
a
their
pulse.
their playoff legs back underneath them, and it's unfortunate because man, if you could have went up 3-0, I just feel like it's like there's nothing Milwaukee could have been able to do. It would have just been a matter of time. But I think the Bucks came out more physical. They played harder, and I think that it was a big difference in this game. Just to some of the stats in specific, the Bucks hit 62% of their field goal percentage. That was their field goal percentage in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Indiana shot 33% in there. So that was like that big difference. The Bucks outscored the Pacers 70-44 in the second half. Bucks shot 59% in the second half. It's just man, yeah, they responded when their backs were against the wall. I hope Indiana does. But also when you talk about a young team, I think the Pacers needed to be humbled a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, it's not to say that they were getting too cocky, but like we're just not there yet to go up 3-0, 3-0 on a team and like start talking about a sweep. Like, no, like we still view ourselves at times as the underdog. And I feel like I would like to say that this hopefully humbled the Pacers to know like you better be ready for a dog fight. Like we're verbally fighting with them. Hey, there's been, I'm not saying like hiding behind refs or anything, but there's been like, space where players are talking and stuff, but you got to be ready for an actual physical fight because this is gonna get physical. The Bucks played more physical in Game 3, and I want to see the Pacers respond. I want to see Tyrese get off to an earlier start. I feel confident Miles will respond. Siakam's been rock solid, consistent. I have no questions about Siakam, but I do know that it's like, hey, look, if a role player could swing a series, when's the Ben Mathurin game coming? I want Mathurin to get more minutes, just like we talked about, and I think that it will pay off. He just needs some second half minutes because I don't think Game 4 is going to go like Game 1 and Game 2 went. I think things are starting to balance out a little bit more. Game 1, Game 2, dominant Pacer efforts. Game 3 in the second half, dominant Bucks effort. I think Game 4 is going to be a very highly contested back and forth type of game where we're going to finally see like, okay, hey, you know what? This isn't one team's going to dominate one half. I think this is going to be edge of the seat material, nail biter. Whoever can win Game 4, it's going to drastically boost their chances of winning this series.
Yeah, I mean, game four is going to be pivotal. I mean, it just really swings the pendulum one way or the other. And I think that's where you just have to really go in there and focus. And one final adjustment thing I wanted to mention earlier, Facci, that I didn't bring up, and I think you brought up some great points there about Mathurin getting some opportunities. I think that if the Bucks want to play small, anytime the Pacers can utilize Pascal Siakam as a screener and get the switch because they're switching a lot more.
Mhm.
If Giannis is going to be guarding Pascal, right, for the majority of the game, I would have Pascal set a screen on whoever's guarding Tyrese or whoever's guarding Nemhard, and then get that switch and then get Pascal in that mid post and try to take advantage of your smaller guys. They've done that at times. And there's been times where I've seen Gary Trent Jr. switch on to Pascal. He can't guard him. So if you can get those smaller guys on him and get the Portises and the Giannis's off of him, he's scored on those guys too. But I just think that it also puts those guys in a spot to foul. And then if you can get their role players that are good 3-point shooters to get into foul trouble, or they start double teaming, now you can kind of do what the Bucks have been doing with how the Pacers have guarded Giannis and get open guys even more open, and hopefully they start hitting their shots because I would be surprised if the Pacers shot this poor from three again.
Yeah.
So that to me is just one more thing I would do, a little bit more wrinkle, because you don't really have that kind of back to the basket go to guy other than Siakam.
Mhm.
And so I just think that that's where they need to utilize him a little bit more to get him more involved, because everybody talks about how quiet his numbers are usually. And I feel like too often they don't go to him enough to keep him in a consistent rhythm of what he's doing. And I don't love that they're pulling him out early in the first quarter for Obi to get him to go with that second unit. I just think you gotta, and if they want to do that, that's fine. But like, you can't put him out there with no floor spacing and expect them not to double team and then for the
Exactly.
Pacers to take advantage.
Yeah, I know. I don't like the whole, Siakam and like 3 to 4 bench guys. It's just,
That's what
it's
it
just,
is. Siakam and
I
four
know
bench guys.
it's just not effective, lineups. So yeah, hopefully we don't see much of that. I feel like the worst, like we said, this was like a rock bottom type of Indiana performance where like they couldn't buy a basket, they couldn't guard the 3-point line at all in the second half. I think things will even out a little bit more, and I think that this was the best. I don't want to say it was the best Bucks punch. It was the best Bucks punch yet, but I think stay with what we're doing. Give Mathurin some more minutes. Dame's coming. Don't double too much. Giannis is going to beat you. You're not going to stop him. But if you can stop everybody else, you're going to win. One man cannot beat us. And I think that we've seen that early on that like Giannis is putting up ridiculous numbers, but I don't care about it because the Pacers are getting wins. So you just can't have someone else go off. I don't expect another Gary Trent Jr. dominant performance like this. I don't expect a Kyle Kuzma dominant performance. Dame, I think if Dame dropped 20, that would be a big difference than what he's doing. And that's still a far contrast from someone dropping 37.
Yeah.
So let's not panic. Everything's going to be all right. If the Pacers come out and handle business in Game 4, it's just a matter of time before we wrap this up. But hey, I respect the Bucks. This isn't going to be one where we're calling this a fluke win by any means. We were not going to sweep anybody. We're just not that team yet. But if we win this series in 6, that's awesome. That's what early I said 7 to start, and I lowered it to 6. I ain't lowering it to 5. But I will say that like if the Pacers win in 6, that's still great.
Yeah, that'd be tough to win in six. I'd have to win one on the road at least,
You got
against
it.
the Bucks. But it's you never know what's going to happen. But let me just ask you this. I know we need to get off here, but I feel like we didn't bring it up enough. But just
You
really
got it.
really quick, what is your pulse on Tyrese Halliburton right now and how he's been playing?
Not good. Not good. Honestly, we talked about it before. The man's shooting 37% in the series. He's averaging 15 points. we know what he brings from like an assist standpoint. Yeah, he's great. And look, he limited the turnovers after having like three turnovers in game two, just I believe one turnover in this past game. But like, where's the Halliburton breakout performance? Like,
Yeah.
where's that like? We mentioned in game two when he dropped over 20. Like we've talked about that before. Like the Pacers record when Halliburton scores 20 or more. I mean, it's fantastic. But there needs to be more. I personally mentioned it. We spoke about it earlier. Settling for way too many threes. I definitely think. How can you get to the free throw line if you don't get to the rim? How? He had zero free throws in game three,
Yeah.
and it didn't surprise me because nine of his 11 shots came from three. So he's got to be more aggressive in terms of getting to the rim. It will pay off. Game one, while he had a rough shooting night at 3 of 13, he at least had six free throws attempted. He's rebounded well in this series, but from a scoring standpoint, I'm sorry, but like you ain't really contending if Halliburton's averaging 15 points. We need him to kind of up that up a little bit, and I do think there's some big games ahead for him. So I don't want to panic because the Pacers are up 2-1, but like we need a little bit more from an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like Tyrese has just not been playing well, and he needs to have a breakout game. And if he can't have one here on the road, hopefully he has one at home because he just needs to prove to everybody that he is an all-star, all NBA level player once again. And I feel like through the first three games, he has proven that he is a good but not great player. And I think he needs to kind of pull that, narrative off of him as like someone that can be a little bit better than he's proven so far that he is in this playoffs. But that's going to do it for today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you guys enjoyed our recap. I'm going to be back later tonight, more so probably early on Sunday morning with a preview for Game 4, and I'm really excited about this one. We got Brian Sampson from the Bucks film room coming on to kind of break down what he saw Milwaukee do to make some key adjustments to help Indiana win this game. So his tweets were pretty funny last night, very very like short to the point. He said, "What a pathetic first half for the Bucks. Show more grit. There was no energy in the stadium at the half." And then at the end of the game, he just tweeted Bucks and six. So like, it's just funny because that's what was making me laugh. I was like, nothing else in between. No reason why the Bucks should win in six, just Bucks and six. So anyway, Brian Sampson will be joining me to discuss what happened in Game 3 and then what we can look forward to seeing in Game 4. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. And then me and Facci will be back late. Are you gonna be able to stay up for that one?
Yes, yes, I will. Yes.
Facci, we got time to take a nap. So set your clocks, ladies and gentlemen. Take a Sunday nap because the game starts at 9:30. 9:30 on TNT. So make sure you hit the snooze button a little bit there on Sunday morning and get you some extra rest. But with that being
There
said,
is no naps with two babies. There is
nap with the babies.
if I tried to nap, my wife would laugh in my face. So it's this is just, stay up late, do the recording. I won't even be able to go to sleep because then it's going to be time to feed my baby once again with those night windows
You're
where
right.
it's like every 2 hours or so. So this is what it is. This is playoff time. This is ain't no sleep. We got to keep winning. And if we can pull out that win or have a good game, I will be thriving off of the energy. The bad news, there ain't no pep in the step today. There ain't no, we got to get it back. All right. There ain't no 3-0 pep. So we're going to try and get it back. We're going to see what we can do. If we can take down the Bucks Sunday night, I'm telling you, that Monday morning pep, whew, it is top notch pep. I want it back in my step. So we'll see what happens. Guys, don't panic. We're going to be all right.
All right, everybody, that's going to do it for us here at Setting the Pace. And if you're hoping the Pacers can get back on the winning ways and get this series 3-1 with a Pacers advantage, Facci, hit me with those three words.
Let's go, Pacers.